It was some outside, but they maybe all
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Would like to welcome all of you here at City of Columbia City Hall, City Council Chambers for tonight's meeting. If you are here for tonight's City Council meeting, you are at the right place. We are glad that you are here. We will call that meeting to order momentarily. Before we do that, we do have 5 public hearings to begin our docket this evening that we will go through those public hearings and then proceed with the regular meeting as indicated. So, beginning with public hearing number 1, public hearing on resolution number 2374, a resolution to provide for the annexation of a portion of right-of-way along Morrow Lane into the city of Columbia, Tennessee. This is Ward 4. Anyone in the audience this evening wish to be heard on public hearing number 1? Seeing none, anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number 1? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 1.
So move.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 1 is now closed. Public hearing number 2, public hearing on ordinance number 4468, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee by rezoning tax map 101, parcel 39, located at 6218 Casey Lane, from rural character district to neighborhood character district. This is Ward 4. Does anyone in the audience this evening wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? Anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? Hearing no one wishing to be heard, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 2.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 2 is now closed. Next item 3, public hearing on ordinance number 4482, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee by rezoning tax map 100M, Group C, parcel 18, located off West 18th Street, from light industrial special district to general urban character district, Ward 4. Anyone in the audience this evening wish to be heard on public hearing number 3? Seeing none, anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number 3? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 3.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved, properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski, take the vote, please.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 3 is now closed. Next item 4, public hearing on ordinance number 4477, an ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 2, Sections 18282 and 18209 5F of the Columbia Municipal Code by adding a paragraph to Title 18, Chapter 2, Section 18282 and deleting Title 18, Chapter 2, Section 18209 5F in its entirety and placing such section with a new title, Chapter 2, Section 18209 5F. Would anyone like to be heard on this public hearing? Hearing none from the audience, anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number 4? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing 4.
Second.
It's been moved, properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 4 is now closed. Next item, final public hearing number 5. Public hearing on ordinance number 4478, an ordinance to add Title 18, Chapter 1, Section 18106 to the Columbia Municipal Code pertaining to sewers. Anyone in the audience this evening wish to be heard on public hearing number 5? Hearing none, anyone on council wish to be heard? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing 5.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 5 is now closed. Thank you, everyone, for indulging us as we read through those public hearings. Those public hearings are, in fact, important It's a guarantee that there is an opportunity to be heard on such items. Generally, these items have been heard or will be heard on the regular docket of our city council, which is why you generally don't see anyone that desires to be heard on these public hearings. But the opportunity is there, and we appreciate and value the opportunity for such transparency. With that said, I would now like to welcome everyone again tonight to the formal city council meeting for the City of Columbia. We're grateful to have such a large audience that will be covering a wide number of topics tonight, and we all are hoping for a very good, productive, positive meeting. We'd also like to welcome those of you who are watching on the live stream that I know we at least have two, which is my mom and dad, as I always like to say, so saying a little shout out to them. We'll now ask the clerk to call the roll, and after that roll is called, we'll proceed further. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Green. Here. Ms. Hardison. Mr. Marshall. Here. Mrs. Wiles. Here. Vice Mayor McBroom. Here. Mayor Mulder.
Here. Thank you. Now, I would like to ask everyone to please stand as you are able for tonight's invocation by Ward Jones. And then please remain standing as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead us in. Mr. Jones, not here?
I haven't seen Ward.
All right. I see we have a few pastors in the room. Reverend Ogilvy, would you mind doing the honors?
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for your grace. We thank you, O God, that you are the one who gives life. And because of that, O God, we thank you for the privilege to give our life back to you as we serve you, God, with all of our heart, mind, and soul, as we love you completely and we love our neighbors as we love ourselves. We thank you for the leadership of the city. We ask you to bless them with wisdom. Give them, Lord God, your grace and your patience and your peace, that as they rule and as they make decisions, God, it is for the best interests of all persons. And that as this community honors you, O God, may we continue, God, to remember that there are those who are less fortunate. There are those in our community who are hurting, that are in need of care and compassion. And we thank you, O God, that as we convene here tonight, that we have an opportunity, God, to know that you represent liberty and justice for all. And we thank you for the blessings on this city of Columbia, both now and forever. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
If you would please face the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Takes us to section 4 of the agenda, approval of agenda. Motion's been properly made by Councilman Marshall, seconded by Councilman Green. Any discussion on that motion to approve agenda item 4? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Green. Aye. Ms. Hardison. Mr. Marshall. Aye. Mrs. Wiles. Vice Mayor McBroom. Mayor Mulder.
Aye, that item is approved. Next, section 5, presentations. Item 5.1, introduction of the 2023-2024 Columbia Mayor's Youth Council members. And this meeting is always my favorite meeting of the year because we get the opportunity to swear in the latest round of our Mayor's Youth Council. If those of you who've been following, this will actually be our 3rd year to have a Mayor's Youth Council. It's something I'm really proud about. The city has really embraced on a staff level as well, and I really appreciate that. Mayor's Youth Councils are not anything unique. I think there are plenty across the country, but we had not previously had one in the city of Columbia. And so 3 years ago, this was formed, and we've had an opportunity to interact with some really good young people in our community across the board in terms of where they attend school. It's been really a personal just satisfaction to see these young people. They come in, they grow, they learn about their city, and as I tell them, I always want them to do one of two things. I want them to return home one day because they loved it here and they want to come back here like I did. But if they decide that they don't want to return home, that they always have a love for their home in which they were raised. And hopefully this Mayor's Youth Council has some small part in that. So with that said, I would like to invite members of council to meet me in the well and invite all of the Mayor's Youth Council to come forward to the well for tonight's swearing in. can see why we're so proud of this group. Couple things about them. First of all, this group is comprised of students in the all 9th through 12th grade. So I think every grade represented. I believe we have one freshman in that group. So hopefully y'all don't get too hard on her. The schools that are represented: Columbia Central, Mount Pleasant, Spring Hill, Zion Christian, Columbia Academy, Holyoke, and Murray County Virtual Schools. So we're very well represented across the entire county with regards to this youth council. We have some returning members from last year and some new members as well. This council value and represent academic excellence, community involvement, and leadership. A few fun facts about this year's council. One, all members are involved in at least 2 or more school or community programs, so commitment to public service already. Over half of them are involved in school athletic programs. Many have been recognized for winning honor roll and other honor awards, and many also have jobs and other organizational responsibilities. Now, I also learned something today, and I'm not sure if Zion is here or not, although I believe he is. But Zion, raise your hand. Zion is a lead actor in the movie that was released, Camp Hideout. So you can go see Zion on the big screen. See him on the big screen, but tonight you saw him on the Columbia screen. We're really excited about that. And the other fun fact that didn't make it to this list, that at least 4 of this council, their parents I went to high school. So it makes me feel like I'm getting old a little bit, but actually more than that, it makes me proud to see the accomplishments that not just 4 of you who I knew, but overall what y'all are doing. So if you'll now raise your right hand, and we're going to make official swearing you in. I, say your name.
I, Corbin Morton,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and uphold the mission
to support and uphold the mission
and rules of government
and rules of government
of the Columbia Mayor's Youth Council.
of the Columbia Mayor's Youth Council.
I will provide my input on matters
I will provide my input on matters
related to the betterment and well-being
related to the betterment and well-being
of youth in our community.
of youth in our community.
Promise to represent
I promise to represent
the Columbia Mayor's Youth Council
the Columbia Mayor's Youth Council
and the City of Columbia
and the City of Columbia
with respect and dignity.
with respect and dignity.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right. Congratulations. We're so excited for a great year. I've already had the opportunity to interact with y'all some. I know there's a few things that y'all have coming up, including you're going to be doing a coat drive. And so we're going to be excited to educate the public more on that. And then they're also going to be partnering with Kids on Stage Connect, which is an organization working to connect industry leaders in our community with students to solve real-life problems. So there's going to be a little bit of an educational and potential workforce development piece. So our goal is to make our city hall open and available to all of you. You see your flank behind you, council members, with members of the Columbia City Council. You'll have an opportunity to interact with them as well over the year and get to know them and really get a better insight into the city. So what we're going to do to end this, we're going to go down the line real quick. All I want to know is I want to hear your name so we can put you on TV. And then I want one person to give a quick little overview of what you expect. Here we go. Sal.
I'm Finlay.
I'm Trey Martin.
I'm Maddie Smith.
Ryan Bytworth. I'm Carter Lawrence.
I'm Lexi Augustine. I'm Hannah Albert. I'm Addison Thomas.
I'm Zion Wyatt.
I'm Maya Lindsay.
I'm Evie Martin.
All right. So which one's going to be the quick delegate to say something real quick?
So the Strawberries also really hope to work with the for the future in Columbia that we can see pilots and through the
Let's give them another round of applause. What we're going to do now is take a photo with the members of the city council, and as I tell any that's here for an agenda item, you are free to leave if you would like. If you would like to leave, it will be okay with us. So we will not take a, if you don't mind, we'll take a picture of members of council. If you'll get up the photo and we'll get on with business.
Make it look
Kids go down. There you go. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
I think we do them one at a time, yeah. Or each one individually.
All right. We'll be now on item 5.2. Item 5.2 is resolution number 2388, a resolution dedicating the soccer complex building located in Ridley Park Sports Complex in honor of the late former City of Columbia City Council member Steve Boshears. That is item 5.2. And I would like to make a motion to approve item 5.2. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion anyone wish to be heard on item 5.2? I would just like to say that it's a profound honor for me and for all of this council to be a part of an organization that gets to make known, sketched in history, his name forever in our community. And the good work that Steve Boshears did was a giant of a man and was such a good man. And we'll forever remember him, those of us who served with him. But now, more importantly, the community at whole and at large will forever remember Steve Boshears. So it's an honor for me to be a part of this approval tonight. And after we vote on this item, I would then invite City Council down to the well for photos with the Boshears family, who is well represented tonight, I see. We're very glad when the average age is brought down due to some of our young visitors. So we're very excited to see our young visitors. And, you know, you look at the family and you just see a snapshot of really people who are involved in our community. And Steve Boshears left a lot of legacies. One of his legacies is his family, who's still giving back in various ways even today. And so for that, we're proud to have known Steve Boshears as well. Mr. Jablonski, we'll take the vote now, please.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Aye. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. We'll now meet the family in the well, please. Yeah, do that.
You're good, you're good, you're good.
I hate to put the Boshears family on the spot, but would anyone in the family want to say anything or have any words? Would you like to say anything? What is your name? Emerson, I love your name. What's your name?
Olsen.
What's your name?
McKenna.
We're so proud that y'all are here tonight. We're so thank your wife. All right.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We are tonight, I'm glad.
All right. That takes us now to item 5.3. Item 5.3 is resolution number 2389, a resolution dedicating a playground and pavilion in Woodland Park located off of the Wheeler Drive entrance in honor of the late former City of Columbia Councilmember Charles Kenneth Ken Wiles. And that is an item requiring approval under this item, and I will make a motion to approve item 5.3. It's been properly seconded. Anyone wish to be heard on 5.3? Mr. Vice Mayor.
I got to be with Ken on the planning commission. And Ken sat here and I sat right over there, and we just always had a great time and always respected him, and it was enjoyable to be with him. And then always on First Fridays, he was always down at Buckets playing, and he always had a joy in his heart. I know he is missed every day, and I appreciate it. Got to enjoy him.
It's funny that you mentioned the planning commission because Ken Wiles was not someone that you could really pull something on. He was pretty astute, but I did pull one on him when I convinced him to agree to serve on the planning commission. And I'm not sure that he knew what he was getting into when I asked him and he agreed. But I'll never forget his willingness at that time. Ken is someone I've known for a long time on a personal level, was a close friend. I was thinking about on my way over here tonight, just what comes to mind when I think about Steve Boshears and when I think about Ken Wiles. And really the same thing came to mind for both. And when I think of Steve, when I think of Ken, I think of a good man. I think that's how you can describe Ken Wiles. He was a good man, no matter what, no matter where, no matter when. I think his son is here tonight. Brent is. He probably had to get back to some other appointment. He's out in the hallway. I would say that Brent's humble just like his daddy, but Brent ain't humble. I'm kidding, of course. Brent, we're glad you're here tonight, and it was an honor to serve with Ken as well. And I will say it's an equally honor to serve with Debbie. So with that, we will take the vote on this item, and then we would ask for Debbie and Brent to please meet us in the well for a photo. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
Ms. Hardison. Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles. Vice Mayor McBroom. Mayor Mulder.
Aye, that item is approved. Thank you.
I didn't see where he went to. I knew he was here somewhere. Ooh, bloody. I knew you were here somewhere.
Right. Brent, would you like to say anything?
No, I just. Yes, actually, I would. No. Thank you all. I have to probably a little but make this the last.
All right now.
But thank you.
The one thing that I would add is Steve Boshears was Ken's student at Highland Park School. This is a wonderful night.
All right, let's give a round of applause.
Going home, probably. Thank you for coming. The rest of the family's playing basketball. Lawrence came in.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your indulgence on those items. We're now on Section 6, Organizational Business, Item 6.1. Approve the minutes of the October 12, 2023 City of Columbia City Council regular meeting.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Green, properly seconded by Councilmember Coleman. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Green. Ms. Hardison. Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles. Vice Mayor McBroom. Mayor Mulder.
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 6.2, re-election of David Forster to the City of Columbia Civil Service Board for a 4-year term. The term began on November 5, 2023, and will expire on November 5, 2027. It's been moved to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion on item on that item, 6.2? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Green. Ms. Hardison.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom.
Aye.
Mayor Mulder.
Aye, that item is approved. Next item is section 7, the consent agenda. These are items that we read on collectively and vote on collectively as a result of no discussion required beyond the reading of the agenda itself. However, I am going to take out 7.8, which is the item relative to the memorandum of understanding with the City of Columbia and the Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative. And I'm going to put that at 8.2 under the, or after 8.1, I should say, because there are several individuals who signed up to speak on that. So instead of that remaining in the consent agenda, since it will require some discussion, again, item 7.8 will move behind item 8.1. So hang tight, we're not far from it. With that said, I'll now read through the consent agenda. Approved disbursements for the month of September 2023 in the amount of $5,516,593.53. Item 7.2, approve the bid award and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with the Tennessee Property Management LLC for landscape management services. 7.3, approve payment to Maury County to provide funding for the Maury County City of Columbia Animal Services Facility for the first quarter of fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $50,000. Item 7.4, receive and file quarterly investment report for the period ending June 30, 2023 pursuant to the city's investment and internal controls policies. Item 7.5, approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract between the City of Columbia and Lifestyle Publications for advertising in the December and March issues of Franklin Lifestyles in the amount of $2,880. Item 7.6, approve and authorize the purchase of 4 police Interceptor utility all-wheel drive vehicles from Ford of Murfreesboro in the amount of $183,928, utilizing the state of Tennessee contract. And item 7.7, approve the City of Columbia's administrative fees for group medical insurance premiums effective July 1, 2023, and authorize the mayor to sign any necessary documents to that effect. That is your consent agenda, item 7.1 through 7.7.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
Ms. Hardison.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom.
Aye.
Mayor Mulder.
Aye. Consent agenda 7.1 through 7.7 is approved. Next item, section 8, administration. 8.1, approve the request from General Motors to terminate the existing pilot agreement. And I do believe we had Will Evans here on that.
Yes.
Mr. Evans, I thought I saw you in the crowd. You and others are here. I think this was something that at study session was just mentioned that maybe you could provide just a brief synopsis to see Stuart Parker with the Industrial Development Board as well. Thank you for being here, Will. And what can you tell us about this?
Sure, I'll be very brief. This does relate back to the major $2 billion plus investment that General Motors made in 2020. At that time, their pilot was reconsidered and expanded, and we are now in the process of implementing that. And so there was an existing pilot on the books, and you're unable to have 2 pilots at the same time. So we are terminating the existing pilot to replace it with this updated version. The only reason this is being brought before the cities, in addition to the county, is they were all parties to that original agreement. And so, therefore, to absolve that, it would need to go before those bodies. As of today, the Maury County Commission, the Spring Hill BOMA, and the Mount Pleasant City Commission have all approved termination of the document. This would be the final body.
So we're the final entity that's requiring the termination. Okay, thank you. That answered the questions that I had. I wanted to make sure council was also aware of that. So any questions for Mr. Evans? All right. Thank you, Will, for being here, and Mr. Parker and others who are here as well. So we're back on item 8.1, approve the request from General Motors to terminate the existing pilot agreement. I will make the motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly seconded. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Green. Ms. Hardison. Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom.
Aye.
Mayor Mulder.
Aye, that item is approved. Thank you again, Mr. Parker, Mr. Evans, and others. Next item we have now, we're going back to item 7.8. Approve and authorize the mayor to execute the memorandum of understanding between the City of Columbia and the Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative, Inc. We do have several members who have signed up to speak on that topic this evening, beginning with June Sanders. Or Saunders, as the case may be. It says Sanders, but I know a little better.
Sanders is correct.
thing.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak on something that I think is really important for our community. I became aware of Columbia's role in the civil rights struggle from a presentation sponsored by Stand Together Fellowship and the Columbia Daily Herald. In that session, I learned about the racial incidents in and around Columbia, Tennessee in the 1940s, and I was excited when this summer the Justice Journeys to Alabama were started again, and I was able to take my 16-year-old grandson, Evan, with me on one of those journeys. Unlike Evan, I grew up in a segregated South, attended segregated schools, and entered MTSU as a freshman the first year it was integrated. My exposure to civil rights movement was primarily watching Walter Cronkite on the nightly news. As that trip into Alabama unfolded, we toured the museums and the memorial parks and heard the stories of those elderly African Americans about their struggles and their triumphs in their quest for equal justice under the law in Alabama. I recall Evan saying, "I just didn't realize it wasn't that long ago." This experience with my grandson exemplifies for me what I'd like to see happen in Columbia. I'd like to share with Evan and my other 7 grandchildren Columbia's place in this critical part of America's history. I can't help but think that other families would find a visit to Columbia, Tennessee, to explore our city's rich history as meaningful as Evan and I found our trip into Alabama this summer. I think it's important that our story be correctly linked to the broader struggle for civil rights through Thurgood Marshall. The statue of Thurgood Marshall connects our past to the present, acknowledging with historical accuracy the events that unfolded here. Thurgood Marshall, a young lawyer in the 40s who feared for his life in our town, lived to become the very first African American Supreme Court justice. I would hope that as our out-of-town visitors experience our hospitality, they will also see just how far we've come in our journey towards peace and justice. I would like to thank the council for the vote this evening. I'd like to support the selection of the Thurgood Marshall statue as the centerpiece for our roundabout. And I'd like to thank also the Peace and Justice Initiative for your work in our community to preserve history. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sanders. Ed. Thank you, Ms. Sanders, for those comments. And Ms. Sanders, I didn't even give you the rules, which were that you were to hold your comments to 3 minutes, and you were actually at 3 minutes and 1 second. So very good job. Next on the list, we have LaVanya Wilson. Ms. Wilson, if you'll come to the podium, you will have 3 minutes to speak. We ask that you do provide your name and your address for the record, please. Welcome to City Hall.
Good evening. My name is LaVanya Wilson. I live at 901 Hanaway Road on the east side of Columbia. To Mr. Mayor, the Vice Mayor, City Council members, thank you for having me here to speak tonight, as I would like to speak as an advocate for the erection of the Thurgood Marshall statue. For it is a part of history, of African American history, that should be told not only to the visitors, but to the descendants of and generations that will come after me of the greatness and of the courageous ancestry that they come from. Individuals such as Saul Blair, Julius Blair, Reverend Kevin Lockridge, James Morton, who all played vital parts in the 1946 uprising. Thurgood Marshall came to Columbia to support the African Americans. And there has been chatter in the community about why Thurgood Marshall, because he was only here for 5 minutes. Well, if you're going to tell that, you have to tell the whole story. He was here for 5 minutes because a group gathered and sought to capture him and take his life. And these gentlemen that I just spoke of risked their lives to help him to escape from Colombia. And because he came, he brought national attention to this to this matter. And that is the reason he had to leave so abruptly. But not only will it bring good conversation, it would also provide reparation for the descendants of those individuals who never received anything. And the generations that come after us will begin to know the history of the greatness of their ancestors. Not only will it provide good conversation for that, but I believe it will also provide healing in the community. And I believe in my heart that it will also bring unity to the community. Again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me to speak on this issue. And I appeal to you tonight to vote yes to the structure of the Thurgood Marshall statue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next on the agenda, we have Brian McKelvey. Mr. McKelvey's here. See him. Mr. McKelvey, welcome. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes. Give us your name and address, please.
Thank you, Council. I'm Brian McKelvey. I live at 935 Nash's Nook, Ward 5. I'm on the board of the African American Heritage Society in Maury County and the Maury County Historical Society. I come here not to speak for those boards, but as a citizen and history enthusiast. Maury County is rich in history and can stand on its own. Maury County is rich in history and does not need a name. It does not need name dropping. Maury County history can stand on its own. I am all in on the statue at the roundabout on South Main East 8th Streets. I just do not think that one person should be the face of the African American Business District. There is a litmus test regarding Thurgood Marshall's importance here. Had he never stepped foot in Tennessee in 1946, would the outcome of the uprising or subsequent trials or its legacy have changed? The answer is no. He represented two of the 25 defendants. Of those two, one was acquitted and the other was found guilty. It flies in the face of the verbiage of the resolution that says he oversaw the acquittal of, quote, many of the defendants. It was one. In Maury County, history matters. We can tell the true story without embellishment. We don't need to suppose or guess. The story is powerful on its own. We do not need a big name. The names of Stevenson, Blair, Morton, Lockridge, Z. Alexander Luby, and others are enough. To put one person as the face gives a false sense of history. All I ask is a compromise. Let an artist use their skills and create an interesting exemplification of the 1946 uprising, incorporating all aspects, including and not exclusively Justice Marshall. Let the statue not only represent justice, but also represent education, religion, entrepreneurship. Let these values represent not only the African American Business District, but Maury County. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McKelvey. Next up, Joanne McClellan. Ms. McClellan, welcome to City Hall. If you'll come to this podium, you'll have 3 minutes. If you'll give us your name and address, please.
My name is Joanne Williams McClellan. I live at 5621 Gaskell Branch Road in Santa Fe, Tennessee. Good evening, everyone. I am the Maury County historian, and I'm also the founder and president of the African American Heritage Society of Maury County. I'm here to speak as the county historian. I have researched the African American history of this county for almost 20 years. I started researching because the written history, the published history in Maury County was either slavery or atrocities, slavery or atrocities. When I started my research, I wanted to know about those African Americans that contributed to the success of this county. So I have been researching personally for over 20 years. I read with a great deal of interest the Memorandum of Understanding published by the city. It states, in part, whereas Thurgood Marshall was a respected young civil rights attorney at the time, represented and earned the acquittal of many of African Americans involved in the race riot, and several other African American attorneys. I need to remind you that it was also a white attorney from Chattanooga representing the men. Due to an illness, Marshall left Columbia in June or July of 1946 after the change of venue trial. And Marshall was not a part of the defense team when 23 of the 25 men were charged and were acquitted. The attorneys were Z. Alexander Luby, Maurice Weaver, Leon Ransom, and the investigator was Walter White. Marshall returned to Columbia in mid-November. He was a member of the defense team with Luby and Weaver during the William Pillow and Lloyd Kennedy trial in November. Pillow was acquitted and Kennedy was found guilty. If Thurgood Marshall's role is not accurately represented during this time in Columbia, it will create a false sense of history. He, with Luby and Weaver, earned the acquittal of one person charged. The first objective stated in the MOU is to memorialize Thurgood Marshall's contribution to our community. His contribution pales that of many local citizens long before 1946 and long after 1946. The second stated objective is to introduce visitors and local citizens alike to the racial uprising in 1946 and contextualize the event important to the civil rights movement. Introduce. There are people who know about this. I was at an exhibit sponsored by the National Museum of Natural History a couple of weeks ago, and with my big Maury County sign, somebody came up to me and said, "Do you know about the Columbia Race Riot?" And I'm not sure where he was from, but then he started talking about Luby's role. He did not mention Thurgood Marshall. The stories of our heroes should not be limited to 1946. The African Americans of Columbia were fighting for civil rights long before 1946 and what is defined as the modern day civil rights movement of the 50s and the 60s. In 1896, after the Plessy versus Ferguson separate but equal Supreme Court decision, African American business owners moved from the public square to in Columbia. They established businesses in the bottom, which became East 8th Street. In 1984, 12 of these African American owned businesses on East 8th Street was placed on the National Registry of Historic Places. 12. 18% of the businesses on the National Registry in commercial downtown Columbia were African American businesses. The case in modern day civil rights movement that had a more direct impact on the African American citizens of Columbia was the Hatton versus Maury County Board of Education.
Ms. McClellan, I hate to cut you off. I did give you a little bit extra time, but we do stick to the rules on the speaking allotment, so your time has expired. Thank you for being here this evening. Next on the list, we have Eric Privetti. Mr. Privetti is here, I believe. Mr. Privetti, welcome to City Hall. You know the drill. You'll have 3 minutes. If you'll give us your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Council. Y'all know who I am, but for the record, I'm Eric Privetti, and in this role, I am president of the Maury County Historic Society. I forwarded a letter to members of council and the mayor last night. I hope you had a chance to read it. If you don't, I have some copies. Basically, the Maury County Historical Society was founded by some of the earliest historians in the county, and we have been recording, publishing, and preserving and promoting Maury County history for 120 years. We remain dedicated to accuracy, preserving, and the factual history of the county. The Society rejects new narratives which are not historically accurate and which spin revisionist history about the events that took place in Maury County. The Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative has proposed to honor Thurgood Marshall's role during the 1946 events with a statue on Columbia's East 8th Street. Murray County Archives Director Tom Price suggested that Thurgood Marshall might not be the best subject for this statue commemorating the 1946 uprising, remaining true to historical facts. Director Price suggested that there were more local citizens involved in the uprising and they deserve more honor than Thurgood Marshall, who due to illness did not even represent all of the defendants. During this time period, another person of national prominence was also actively involved in Murray County events. Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt helped to form a committee to provide every possible safeguard to those persons unjustly charged with crimes and to assure them justice would not be denied. The National Committee for the Justice in Columbia, Tennessee solicited contributions nationwide to help with the defense fund for the Murray County men. Mrs. Roosevelt co-signed a fundraising letter, which a copy of which I sent to you, from the National Committee for Justice in Columbia, Tennessee, which was located in New York City, soliciting financial help. All proceeds were provided to that defense of the African Americans charged in the Columbia riot. The Historic Society agrees with the Columbia's Peace and Justice Initiative project to recognize and commemorate the key figures of the 1946 events. Maybe Eleanor Roosevelt should also be recognized. The Murray County Historical Society is in agreement with Tom Price and the Murray County historian Joanne McClellan, that more accurate and a fitting tribute commemorating the 1946 uprising in our history would be to honor local black leaders who helped save the lives during the uprising. Please do not stretch the historical facts into a revised narrative honoring Thurgood Marshall's role in the county 1946 events. We believe that there absolutely should be a monument to this, and I'm asking this council to just simply to postpone this vote. Have more discussions. If County Historian Joanne McClellan, who knows more African American history than anyone else in this county, says this isn't right, then I think we should take heed to that and have more discussions. It is the belief that the Murray County Historical Society Board of Directors, in agreement with the county's historian and county archives director, that the current proposed interpretation of Columbia's uprising is neither consistent nor representative of the total historical fact about the 1946 uprising. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'm simply asking for a postponement until after the holidays so that more people can be involved in the discussion. The authoritative historians of Murray County have not been involved. It's this other group doing their own thing. So we would appreciate just a postponement. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda are signed up to speak, Ginger Wells. Miss Wells, is she here? Okay. Let the record reflect we called her name. Next on the docket is Eric Whitaker. Mr. Whitaker. We called his name also. We'll go on now to Eric Jacobson. Mr. Jacobson, welcome. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Eric Jacobson. I live at 4985 Joe P. Road, Northeast Murray County. I had a few comments, and actually I think the Mayor's Council sort of threw me for a loop because, you know, anybody who was looking at the kids that were just up here, they're the legacy of Thurgood Marshall's work, plain and simple. He's not just important to Murray County and to Columbia and to Tennessee, he's important to the nation. And not all of our history is local. We're all affected by what happens in other corners of the state, of the country, and God knows the globe. Thurgood Marshall was controversial and successful in life. I guess his legacy continues right here tonight. James Stevenson Jr., who I think everyone knows, and his name's been tossed about a bit tonight, was a World War II veteran. Served on the USS Prometheus, a ship that traveled around the South Pacific, fixing naval vessels in the fight against the Japanese. His father fought in Europe, fought at the Bulge, Normandy. They came home to some of the same old stuff the people of color had been dealing with for decades, long after the Civil War had ended. In the segregated South, in prejudiced, bigoted parts of the North and in the West. And sometimes people get into altercations, they push the boundaries because they've had enough. And sometimes those people need help. And that's what the NAACP attorneys who showed up right here in Middle Tennessee did. at the risk of their own lives. Thurgood Marshall's life could have been ended here, but it wasn't. He went on years later to take a case of a group of families from Kansas who simply wanted their black children to be able to go to public schools. They were denied. Thurgood Marshall took that case on appeal and convinced the Supreme Court 9-0 that segregation as defined by Plessy versus Ferguson wasn't just unconstitutional, it was just wrong. He couldn't have done that had things turned out differently here. Thurgood Marshall didn't do this alone. He had help from other counsel. It's true, other counsel led the way. But Thurgood Marshall, along with people like Z. Alexander Luby, kept working. I think most people don't know that Luby's house was firebombed in 1960 in Nashville. But Thurgood Marshall kept working, and so did Luby. We know Marshall's history later on. But everybody has a point of origin. Everybody starts somewhere. And for him, he had about a decade's worth of lawyer's work before he ended up right here in Columbia. Something changed in this community for him and for Luby and for many other people, white and black. The changes were reflected right here tonight. Children of different colors, different races, different places, all able to simply go to school together. I think that's a good starting point for people to learn about the history of this town, this community, and this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the list is Russ Adcox. Mr. Adcox, welcome to City Hall. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes. Give us your name for the record, please.
Yeah, Russ Adcox. I live at 6941 Zion Crossing Court. I also serve as the Vice President of the Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative, and I think you already know where I stand on the Thurgood Marshall statue. I encourage you to approve this memorandum of understanding tonight so that we can get started raising funds and be ready for installation when the East 8th Street project begins. We think this will be a very positive thing for our entire community. The primary stated opposition was that someone else should be honored instead of Thurgood Marshall. Tom Price stated this in his letter to the editor. Trent and I invited him to coffee and did that a couple of weeks ago. First, I agree that all heroes of 1946 deserve honor and recognition by our community. It is long overdue. CPJI has broader plans to do that and welcomes the support of anyone who would like to bring more attention to these events and our community's historic contribution to the national civil rights movement. Second, I do believe Thurgood Marshall is the right choice for this recognition. He was a significant figure in the story, and our city played a pivotal role in the future direction of his life. The events of 46 ultimately led to the formation of his well-deserved nickname, Mr. Civil Rights, and his ascension to the Supreme Court. The recognition of Marshall will ultimately open the door for others in our city, region, and state to learn more of what happened in Columbia and become familiar with the names of other heroes that you've already heard tonight. People like Z. Alexander Luby, Leon Ransom, Maurice Weaver, James and Gladys Stevenson, James and Mary Morton, Julius Blair, and Saul Blair. I do disagree with the characterization that this is revisionist history to honor Marshall. It is not revisionist to tell the full story of our history. Some in our community have been waiting 77 years for us to do this. Other organizations who have existed far longer than us have had ample opportunity to do so and to formally recognize the heroes of 1946 in whatever way they desired. They have not done so other than to speak in opposition to our effort. The African American Heritage Society did erect a marker, in 2016, and I do appreciate the efforts of Joanne to contribute to the story of 1946 and also African American history in our community. We welcome any further contributions by that group to recognize the story of 1946. We welcome any further contributions of the Maury County Historical Society to welcome the contributions of 1946. But we do not think that that should obstruct or delay the project that we have proposed to the city. All attempts to tell the full story of African American history in our community should be welcome. There's no reason to defer or delay this decision. East 8th Street has waited long enough. I urge you to pass this tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Adcox. And then the final individual that spoke up to speak on this topic this evening, Dr. Krista Martin. Dr. Martin, you know the drill, but I'll tell you anyway. You'll have 3 minutes, and if you'll please give us your name for the record.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Krista Martin, 2119 Polk Drive, Columbia, Tennessee, serving as the co-chair of the Thurgood Marshall Statue Project with Eric Jacobson, a 25-year historian, author, and a studier of civil rights and history. You have heard all the comments, pro and con, for this statue tonight. This evening, the Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative continues the work that they started in 2015 as a Stand Together Fellowship. We have continued to follow and move to do the work that the challenge was given to us by a very diverse, full church attendance of over 200 and something people at St. Paul AME Church back in 2015. I'm excited to work as co-chair for this project. I know that this project is needed. I know that this project will start conversations of all kinds across our community. We want this project to be meaningful and a redevelopment opportunity for 8th Street. As I sat on this council for 30 years and 4 months, we have talked about what we can do to redevelop and re-engenize our communities, especially those that have been denied the activities of other parts of the community. You have done work, and we attended this last week a wonderful opening of President Polk and Sarah Polk Park. Let me tell you, we can have some very extended conversations about that park, but President Polk was President of the United States of America, just like Thurgood Marshall was Supreme Court Justice of the United States of America. Our goal is to explore history, promote justice, expand understanding, inspire conversation for a better community. That's everybody. Our plan is to capture part of the conversations in this statue. We will have focus groups soliciting input from those that are here now and those that have moved away. We will use virtual technology to capture them in Zoom or Teams or something like that. We want to share with you that Columbia and Murray County has a rich history, and we need you to know that there is a lot of history that's not been told. But we're helping to tell it tonight. And we hope that you know that I'm asking for a yes vote tonight. I'm asking for a yes vote for those who are sitting here, those who have been here, those who have been in the struggle, who just want to have the story told. I sent an email today to City Council, and I asked them to look at 11 books that add in their narrative stories about the young Thurgood Marshall and his work. We know that they're in the book. Several of us have read the books. I have them in my library. So history is being researched one by one in this community. The Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative requests your support for this memorandum of understanding. I support this request to honor Thurgood Marshall, the work for justice, civil rights, and human dignity in Columbia, Tennessee. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Martin. That concludes our public comment period on this agenda item. So we're now back on the agenda item 7.8, approve and authorize the mayor to execute the MOU between the City of Columbia and the Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative, Inc. I will make the motion to approve for purposes of discussion. It's been properly seconded by Councilmember Green. Okay, now we're on discussion. Does any member of council wish to be heard on this item? Councilmember Coleman.
I'll say that I definitely can understand both sides, if you will, because it does, for the simplicity, we'll say sides here tonight. I know that when I was trying to explain local government, when I was trying to explain it to my friends how it worked, how Columbia's government worked, I used Congress and the president and other larger governments that most people are going to recognize. I use that to help them contextually understand how ours works. So having someone of national attention, I think, does provide that connection so people can understand a little bit more how it does play into it. At the other side, I don't think that this needs to be the end of the way that we commemorate this and reflect on this as a community. There certainly are other figures that are worth, I think, looking at or and memorializing, and there's no reason why we can't continue to do that. So those are my thoughts on this. I encourage the community to keep on looking at other ways that we can do this, but I do think that the Peace and Justice Initiative have done a lot of work, and they're here with this project ready to go now.
All right, Councilman Coleman, any other member of council wishes to be heard on this item? I'll just say a couple things. I actually, if you were here last week, you maybe already heard this once, and I really was not planning on repeating some of those words. However, I feel compelled to for a couple of reasons. One, because I want to make sure my statement or my position on this issue is clear. But also because there have been some developments that have occurred over the last week that I think warrant a discussion. First of all, I am disappointed that we have a situation where it appears as though we have a historical society and other societies that are wanting to discourage or not promote some of our history, whether or not it's good or bad. My preference would be that the Historical Society, the African American Heritage Society, would want to work together to come up with a overall story to where this is the first piece of that story. And so my hope is that after tonight, perhaps those groups will see fit, as well as the Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative, to talk about this and to have a reset button for the conversation going forward, because I think it is important. The troubling thing in the letter to me was, number one, the allegation that this was some form of revisionist history, and that's just simply not true. And I believe that that is a slap in the face to the group that has been working to tell the story. It may be true that Thurgood Marshall himself was only here for 2 of the trials, but he was the chief of the legal office for that defense for all of those, whether or not his physical presence was here or not. The other thing I want to say is whether or not he was here for all of them or 2 of them, again, to me, is not important. And what would the number be that would be sufficient? Would it be if he was here for 4, would we say that there should be a statute? 5? To me, 1 is enough. The other thing that I do not find very compelling is that he was only here for a couple of days. For me, 1 day was enough. And if we have a test on the number of days, how many days would it have taken for us to then feel comfortable about the statute? I also was surprised about the fact that the letter from the Historical Society of Maury County states that, and I quote, "Is this part of Maury County's history that we want to commemorate?" when discussing the fact that Thurgood Marshall was afraid to be here. And I don't believe that any historical society should be picking and choosing what part of history, because I believe that if we do not know that, the history, then we'll be doomed to repeat the history. Regarding Eleanor Roosevelt, I had forgotten that Eleanor Roosevelt got involved in this by writing the letter. And actually, to me, that makes the statue of Thurgood Marshall even more compelling, because it was Thurgood Marshall that elicited Eleanor Roosevelt's support. But for Thurgood Marshall making the request, in my opinion, it may have been that Eleanor Roosevelt would not have even been involved. And as well, Eleanor Roosevelt was not previously, to my knowledge, ever stepped foot in the city of Columbia, and Thurgood Marshall did. So there is a distinction. However, as a part of that story that I hope will continue to be told, perhaps there is a place for Eleanor Roosevelt in that story, and certainly that's a part of the conversation that I hope will continue. I believe that Thurgood Marshall's statue also provides an opportunity for a broader story to be told. And I do wholeheartedly agree that the locals who are involved in this, their story should not be untold. The good thing about that is that you'll see in the Memorandum of Understanding is that there's an opportunity for an informational marker to go along with the statue. And there will be a committee that will be formed to tell the story on that marker. And that's where I would challenge the Historical Society and the African American Heritage Society. Instead of wanting to limit this, be a part of this and tell the full story that you're pleading and begging for this evening. So with that, that concludes my remarks on this. I do support the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion, Councilmember Wiles?
I said I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but some of the speakers spoke to my heart. I appreciate very much, Mr. Jackson. Your statement was spot on, that this is bigger than us. This is where we are. This is who we are. Having spent my life in American education, you're right. you're right. That group standing in front of us tonight documents where we've spent our life, like one of the other speakers who spoke, growing up during that time and experiencing those sessions. Plessy, I'm sorry, I'm a geek. When you go back to Plessy, I'm going, of course, I'd forgotten about that. And you go back to Hatton and Murray County Board, and you go back. We left out Brown v. Board of Ed. That was demonstrated tonight. How many years down the road? 50 or 60 years down the road. We want to look back, but we also want to look forward. And I do think there's more story to tell. I've learned a lot this week also about this particular thing, having been born and raised in Nashville, but having spent 55 years here now. So I will have to say, I hope we can work together on this. I hope that all sides can benefit, and we can go on to tell the whole story, the complete story, nothing but the truth. And thank God that we've moved forward in that number of years. So thank you for bringing up that about the children that you saw.
Councilmember Green.
Just something real quick. Only thing you get in life sometime is opportunity. And when you get that opportunity, you got to grasp, take hold of it. And you can't say when you leave out those doors tonight, opportunity wasn't offered. You can spend this how you want to. I think it's positive. I've been supporting it since before you even heard about it. When I would go in the office and me and Mr. Massey would talk about doing something on East 8th Street. But for those who oppose opportunity, you got to seize the moment. You can go back and say how they did or deny it, but opportunity to move ahead is here. And if you can't grasp that, then you don't grasp anything. But grasp this yes vote, because I'm voting for it. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Green, thank you for that. Two final, is anyone else wish to be heard? Just two final things. One, I want to point out that one of the positives that hopefully has been learned through this process is that this is going to involve a part of an overall East 8th Street project and renovation. And we're really excited about the enhancements that will begin soon. So I wanted to make sure that that was known to the audience this evening. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is this is a resolution where the City of Columbia is accepting a donation from a not-for-profit entity. And I believe that certainly 75 plus years have passed since this occurred, and there have been ample opportunities for a marker or a statue of some sort to have been constructed. And so I want to say thanks to Columbia Peace and Justice Initiative for 76 plus years later for bringing this to the city, because this is not a taxpayer-funded project. This is the City of Columbia that is accepting a donation from your group to help us tell the story that happens to involve our community. Mr. Jablonski, take the vote, please.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Item 7.8 is approved. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As I told the Mayor's Youth Council, this is your opportunity to depart if you would like. We do have some additional business to take care of, so if you would like to exit, we ask that you do exit and that you exit in an orderly manner, please, so that we can continue on with our business.
Mayor.
Speaking of which...
Could our group have a picture with council?
Would that be appropriate?
Can we do that, Mr. City Attorney?
You can.
We can do that.
1 minute break, I'm gonna run.
Well said, madam. I am too, but I was talking, I was like stunned. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. Oh my. She gonna get the picture. Come get the picture. Look. With that international code. The international code. She's dying to get a picture. Look at her. Dying.
Oh, brother, you better roll on up, man.
You can ask her.
Maybe look tall.
Say CPGI.
Chris.
Say third grade.
Very good.
2 seconds. You're gonna be. That's it.
Well done, Russ. Well done.
Junior, be careful she ain't got no shirt.
Smoking something like this. Oh, no. Shut down.
Bye, Julie. She was in my third grade class. Oh, yeah. She's still the same as she was.
All right, we are now back on the agenda. Section 9 resolutions. We're going to go on now to item 9.1, resolution number 2374. We may have to get them to quiet down just a little bit. Please, sir. 9.1, Resolution 2374, a resolution to provide for the annexation of a portion of right-of-way along Morrow Lane into the city of Columbia, Tennessee. This is Ward 4. Item 9.1.
Second.
It's been moved, been properly seconded. Any discussion on item 9.1? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Aye. Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom?
Wait.
Mayor Mulder?
That item is approved. We're aware of his whereabouts. He advised to proceed. Item 9.2, resolution number 2383, special assessment corrections.
Move for approval.
It's been moved, properly seconded. Any discussion on item 9.2? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.3, a resolution to accept the streets and drainage improvements in the Elon subdivision, Phase 1 for ownership and maintenance.
Move for approval.
Moved, properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.4, tax correction, resolution 2385. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.5, resolution 2386, a resolution to accept ownership and maintenance of sewer improvements serving Quail Run, Phase 3, Ward 5. Item 9.5.
Move for approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 9.5? Hearing no discussion, we'll now take the vote on item 9.5.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next and final item, 9.6, resolution 2387, a resolution to accept the sanitary sewer improvement serving Elon Phase 2, Ward 5.
Move for approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. We'll now go to section 10 ordinances, beginning with item 10.1, Second, consideration of ordinance number 4468, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the City of Columbia, Tennessee, by rezoning tax map 101, parcel 39, located off 6218 Casey Lane from rural character district to neighborhood character district. This is Ward 2. We do have a few individuals who signed up to speak tonight, beginning with Susan Schuff. Ms. Schuff, you're here this evening. Welcome back. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Susan Schuff, 6219 Casey Lane, Columbia. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, and City staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you again. As stated in previous meetings, this portion of Casey Lane is very unique and presents limitations for future development. Some of the limitations include extremely narrow road with no shoulder, a very dangerous S-curve, active railroad track, water drainage issues due to the location of a higher elevation Murray County Park where water drains into the ditches and across the road, various springs and underground streams. All of the above limitations remain. This portion of Casey Lane was not developed to support anything really other than CD2. Please say no to the request to change 6218 zone from CD2 to CD3. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schuff, for those comments and for being here this evening. Next up, Daryl Schuff. Mr. Schuff, come on back up. Welcome. State your name and address for the record, please. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes.
Good evening. Daryl Schuff, 6219 Casey Lane, directly across the street from 6218 Casey Lane. I am strongly opposed to rezoning 6218 Casey Lane from CD2 rural countryside character. All of the adjacent and immediate properties are zoned CD2 and include residents sitting on 2-acre lots and a working farm with a greenbelt designation. The rural countryside area matrix in the Columbia Land Use Plan and the Connect Columbia Comprehensive Plan states changes to the overall character of an area should rarely occur. As such, any new development should blend with existing neighborhood assets and be compatible with the established rural character of the area. New development should be responsive and respectful of the natural features of this character area. A CD3 zone allowing 104 houses with some lots as small as 1/8 of an acre does not blend with the existing properties and is not compatible with the established rural character of the area. The CD3 suburban neighborhood does not blend with the existing CD2 countryside assets and is not compatible with the established rural character of the area. Please say no to change the zone and preserve rural countryside Casey Lane. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schuff. Next up, we have Jenny Parashak. Welcome, Jenny. You have the floor for 3 minutes. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Jenny Parashak, homeowner of 6213 Casey Lane. I want to thank you all on allowing me the opportunity to speak quickly tonight. Months ago, myself and my neighbors brought many concerns to you with the possible rezoning of 6218 Casey Lane. I would like you to know nothing has changed in this area except for numerous accidents since we last spoke. I hope you can recall all the information and photos we presented to you and ask you once again, protect the citizens of Casey Lane and vote no to rezoning 6218 Casey Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parashak. And then the final individual that signed up to speak is Mr. Aaron Evans. Mr. Evans, welcome. You have the floor for 3 minutes. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Aaron Evans. I'm here representing the developer on this project, KCS. I'm here just to answer any questions you may have about the proposed rezoning to CD3, which is what's in front of us today. You're all aware there's a second zoning that we are asking for a planning council right now, planning commission, which is CD3L, which is where we'd actually like to end up, taking into account the information that the citizens have given us and the feedback that we received from this committee. We feel like that's the best usage for that. So CD3L is what we're really looking to do. That's our hope. A couple things I will address is just that we have traffic improvements that will be part of this project. We recognize there is a need for improvement, and without private investment in development, those improvements on the road may not happen. Things such as trimming back some trees, adding rumble strips, adding in new signage around the S-curve, as well as road improvements that will stabilize the ditches, making them wider to be able to handle more water, which is definitely going to help that area. So as we continue, the discussions on this project, we do want to make sure that we're letting you know we are going to make improvements to that area to help with some of the concerns that are being raised by the citizens. And ultimately, we do want to get to a CD3L as our final hope and request. So if there's anything I can answer, I'm happy to speak about that.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Evans? Hearing none, thank you for being here. Stay tight just in case, if you don't mind. So now we are back on this item 10.1. We've heard from the public comments as signed up, and so we'll now entertain any motions. I will first ask the question, just a point of clarification. Mr. Tischer, because the developer indicated that they are currently also proceeding under an application through the Planning Commission that deferred action yesterday. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it is for the 3L.
It's CD3L.
Yes.
Okay, and I just wanted to make sure that I was writing that, and also so that the audience who's here tonight, the adjoining property owners and neighbors, I think it would be important to continue conversation and communication with the developers because it is coming through the Planning Commission under a different zoning classification, and so I think that continued input and conversation would be good, and I would challenge the developer to also be open to conversations and hopefully working together to potentially find a solution. With that said, I am going to make a motion to deny this item based upon the zoning ordinance, which does not allow for adverse impacts on adjoining properties. And I believe that this particular zoning classification would in fact have an adverse impact and that there would be no justification or effects that would otherwise prevail, so that we should make an exception here. So that is my motion, and that is the reason for my motion. Again, it is a motion to deny.
Second.
Been properly seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is denied. Next item, 10.2, second consideration of ordinance number 4477, an ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 2, Sections 18282 and 18209.5F of the Columbia Municipal Code by adding a paragraph to Title 18, Chapter 2, Section 18282, and deleting Title 18, Chapter 2, Section 18209.5F in its entirety, and replacing such section with a new Title 18, Chapter 2, Section 18209.5F. That is item 10.2. Would anybody like to repeat that item?
Move for approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 10.3, second consideration of ordinance 4478, an ordinance to add Title 18, Chapter 1, Section 18106 to the Columbia Municipal Code pertaining to sewers.
Move for approval.
Been moved, been properly seconded. Any discussion on that item 10.3? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles? Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 10.4. Second consideration of ordinance 4482, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee, by rezoning tax map 100M Group C, parcel 18, located off West 18th Street, from light industrial special district to general urban character district. This is Ward 4. Item 10.4. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 10.4? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles? Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye. 10.4 is approved on second consideration. Next item, 10.5. First consideration of ordinance number 4483, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance 4400, the zoning ordinance for the city of Columbia, by rezoning a portion of tax map 51, parcel 58, located off Nashville Highway and Honey Farm Way, from planned unit development commercial enterprise general to general urban corridor character district, and established December 14, 2023 as the date of public hearing. This is Ward 5. We do have a few individuals who've signed up to speak this evening, beginning with Tom DuBois. I thought I saw Mr. DuBois here this evening. Welcome to City Hall. We're glad to see you. You'll have 3 minutes, Mr. DuBois, and we ask that you state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, City Council members. It's a pleasure to be with you today. It's been a while since I've been in this room. Brings back some good memories. My name is Tom Du Bois, 2201 Carpenters Bee Drive here in Columbia. And I've been a resident of Honey Farms for 2 years. Of course, lived downtown for 25 plus years. A lot of the residents of Honey Farms have been there for a decade or more. And I think they have more of a, I guess, ability to talk about this great subdivision. About 600 residents. I come today is to just ask the city council to take a pause. I know this has already gone through the planning commission. I understand it's been deferred once by the developer, and I'm concerned that the residents have not had an opportunity to really be heard. Sure, residents like me could have gone to the planning commission meeting, but we're here now. This is the opportunity for your body to hear our concerns. I know there was a delay or a postponement, a deferral last month to allow the developer and his representatives to meet with vice mayor and the mayor and city manager. Give us that opportunity as well prior to making a first consideration of this issue. I'm not opposed to development. As Vice Mayor McBroom knows, I've represented developers and property owners and home builders for many years. In the legislature, I was very strong proponent of landowner rights and what developers can do. But this body is here for a purpose, is to see if there's a better way to have some input of the residents to see what's not just the highest and best use that the developer wants to pursue. And I respect the developer. He actually called me back this afternoon. We've had a great discussion today. We made out there in the lobby. We're going to get together next week. We're going to have some discussions. And with Steve Kroger, his realtor. But the residents need to be heard as well. And I hope that they will give that opportunity. Mayor Motor, you mentioned adverse impact. Has there been any kind of consideration or study of the adverse impact this is going to have on the residents of the 600 residents of Honey Farms? Yeah, I know there's going to be a gas station in the conceptual plan to be there. 3 fast food restaurants, a car wash, office buildings, maybe a couple of office buildings. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to, those kinds of businesses. But is that the kinds of businesses we want as the entrance to our community? We've seen what Spring Hill has done, and I'm not criticizing Spring Hill in any way. But do we want something better for our community? Do we want something that's more appealing as you enter the city? And that's why I just asked that the city council consider a pause here, not to pull the emergency brake, but just to consider a deferral for 1 month, to allow the residents to have some input. And I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Du Bois. It's good to see you this evening. We'll now move on to the next individual, Drew Smith. Drew Smith and Greg Gamble and Matt Walsh are the 3 names I have left. Mr. Walsh, let's go with you first, actually, if that's all right. Come on, Mr. Walsh. Welcome to City Hall. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes if you'll give us your name and address for the record.
Sure. It's Professor Matt Walsh, Columbia State. Really quick, I have a 2513 Queen Bee in Honey Farms. But as a 40-year veteran of the Navy, I really like the fact you guys start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We just don't see it enough in our country. My family owns 3 residents in Honey Farms, mother-in-law, kid, me. We have a 3-year-old granddaughter and many other children. At the corner of Beeswax and Honey Farms Way, there is a 3 to 8-year-old playground. All right, think of it. You put all this stuff in that the folks want to build, People are going to make left out Honey Farms going, well, there's too much traffic. I'm going to make a right and see if I can get out through the subdivision. It will happen. I would do it. They're going to come up and make a right. It's a downhill right in front of our playground. All the residents know there's little kids there. You do 10 miles an hour. People that don't live there don't know that. So we're risking the health of our little ones. Make no mistake about it. That will happen. Now, everybody I talked to and my family talked to about this proposal, they believe that it will adversely affect our community greatly. Specific things that folks brought up. The Rutherford Creek watershed environment, the creek that goes behind our houses. All the water that's coming down from rain right now is pushing whatever chemicals the builders build into our creek, which feeds the Duck River, of course, as well. Has there been an environmental impact study done yet? I haven't found it on anybody's website. Maybe there has been, but I couldn't find it. Also, crime. That was another thing that folks brought up. The crime out in the Kedron Match section of our city is relatively low. It's actually pretty good. What happens when you build more people coming into that subdivision? Do we have a plan for the police to have more cars patrolling that area? Has that been thought of? Because we're going to need it. Crime will go up. It's inevitable. Yeah, that's what I got. Basically, everybody I talked to, nobody wants this to happen in their neighborhood. Not one person. So the folks that support you are not in favor of this. Ask anybody in the subdivision. One person. I bet you can't find out of the 600 houses more than 10% that would want this. No way. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, appreciate it.
Thank you, Professor Walsh. Okay, now we have Drew Smith and Greg Gamble who are here this evening. Greg Gamble appears to be the first to arrive at the podium, so we'll give you the floor first. You'll have 3 minutes if you'll state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Greg Gamble. I live at 716 Hampton Cove in Franklin, Tennessee. I'm representing the applicant tonight. As we discussed in the work session, this property has been planned for commercial from the inception of the Honey Farms PUD master plan. My client is a commercial developer. My client intends to develop this property for commercial. My client bought this property for commercial. Your new PUD standards that you've adopted as a part of your zoning ordinance require two-story buildings. They require 0 to 20-foot front setbacks off of Nashville Highway. They require things that we would have to ask exceptions for from not only the Planning Commission, but from this board. CD4C is the only zone that is supported in Connect Columbia for this property. It is a zone that we don't need to ask those exceptions for. It allows this property to be developed as commercial. And we're asking for your approval on that for first reading tonight. We know that we have a month, and we're so happy that Mr. Dubois reached out to us today. We have been trying to figure out how to get in touch with someone with the Homeowners Association, so that we're grateful for that. But we do have a month between first reading and second reading, and we absolutely plan on having more conversations with them prior to the public hearing. We want their input. Our neighbors are important to us. We have not been sitting idly by either. 2 months ago, our civil engineer filed construction documents with the City of Columbia to improve a turn lane and to do the signal installation. So those plans have been submitted to Columbia. As soon as they're approved by your engineering department, they are then filed with the state. Once the state approves the signal installation and the turn lane improvements, we can begin that work. We want to move as aggressively on the commercial development part of this as we are with the improvements for the intersection. So I look forward to your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. All right, and the final speaker, Drew Smith. Mr. Smith, welcome back. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Drew Smith, 6148 Lee Highway, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I do want to correct one thing that Mr. Gamble said that I may have led him astray. We have not submitted plans for the traffic signal design and the turn lane modifications as of yet. We've provided traffic studies to the third-party consultant that the city has hired. we've received comments and responded to those comments and have resubmitted that to the city for the city engineer and the planning department's approval of those comments to the traffic study in order to submit our design documents to TDOT. And I just want to say, you know, we talked about this last week at the work session. We intend on developing this as a commercial development, which under the previous PUD that was initially started in 2006 and as amended in 2015, the property along Nashville Highway is in the suburban corridor land use. It's intended to be commercial. It's intended to generate tax revenue for the city of Columbia, and that's what we intend to do there. It is not our intention to increase the residential density by putting residential product along Nashville Highway, because that's just not the best intended use for the property. So we thank you for your consideration on this rezoning request that will allow the proper commercial development to happen on this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, we're back on the item 10.5. And I guess I have just a couple questions for Mr. Keltner. Please, Mr. Massey.
Paul, if you can come forward, please.
Mr. Keltner, on this item, the zoning that's in place now, what would be allowed there if they were not seeking any change or modification?
It is a commercial enterprise general plan unit development zoning. So as the name implies, it's mostly commercial based type of uses that would be allowed in this particular property.
So with regard to the development that they're currently entitled to as an entitlement, that would currently be commercial development along the lines of what Mr. Du Bois was discussing.
Yes, sir. It is vested for commercial use back in 2003.
All right. And okay. Any other questions for Mr. Keltner? All right. Thank you, Mr. Keltner. Don't go far. We're on the item. Item 10.5. Is there a motion on item 10.5? I will make a motion to approve on first consideration on this item.
Second.
It's been properly seconded. Let me just give my reasoning here. First of all, I would point out to Mr. Du Bois's point about residents wanting to have involvement and interaction in this. You're right, Mr. Du Bois. This has flown. I shouldn't say flown because it hasn't flown. It's actually gone at a pretty slow pace. It has gone through the Planning Commission where there are opportunities to be heard there. But tonight is just first consideration. And so, as you know, Mr. Du Bois, if it does pass tonight, that means that there will be a second reading required in the month of December. And so, to the point of residents not having an opportunity, I would just encourage you, Mr. Du Bois, to perhaps make sure that those residents are aware if they're not already. And we would love to have them here to hear their concerns at the December meeting for this agenda item if it were to pass tonight. The other thing I want to say is that, in my opinion, this has perhaps revealed an unintended consequence of our new zoning ordinance that has really hamstrung the opportunity for this piece of property to move forward with the commercial development. And in my opinion, it's in an area where commercial development is greatly needed. I understand the concern that my friend, the vice mayor, has with regards to the potential risk that by doing this takes it away from guaranteed commercial development. But I've had several conversations with the developer and also Greg Gamble. Greg Gamble particularly, someone who I trust and who has always been very straightforward and honest. And the desire here, in my view, based upon what they have relayed to me, is to move forward with commercial development, but to get out from being hamstrung under what their current situation is. And this zoning classification that they are seeking would be the only classification that they have an opportunity for that commercial development to proceed. And so for those reasons, I do support this on first consideration. I would look forward to maybe more conversation at next month from other residents at the second consideration. Thank you. Vice Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate what you said. But what we have to realize is if we do change the zoning, we lose a lot of the ability that we have to control what's on that property. He still can do commercial on there. He would have to do a PUD. He would have to come in front of the planning commission to get the PUD approved. They can kind of look at what's going on there and have a little more ability to be able to control what goes on there. I mean, if they come in here as a commercial with a used car lot and they want to zone it, we can't stop it. And they're commercial people. They have down their concept plan, they're wanting to put a car wash. We would not be able to stop it if we wanted to. I mean, is that what we want to be able to give them free rein on to be able to do stuff like that? If they have a PUD, they have to meet the criteria, and we have a little more ability to be able to control what's there. I just want everybody to realize that. I mean, I'm sure they're wanting to do what's best, but if we want to up our game, we need to be able to control a little more. Thank y'all.
All right. Any other discussion on this topic? Hearing none, we will take the vote. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall?
No.
Mrs. Wiles?
No.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
No.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item fails on first consideration. Next item, 10.6, first consideration of ordinance 4484, an ordinance for the abandonment of a right-of-way being a portion of property off Windy Boulevard between lots 20A and 21A, and authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver a quitclaim deed to the property owner and establish the date of December 14, 2023 as the date of public hearing. Item 10.6.
Move for approval.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 10.6? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Ms. Hardison? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles? Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Any other business for the good of council this evening? I do have just a couple things. First of all, I want to give a kudos to all of our team at City Hall who was involved in the preservation, the Polks at Preservation Park. I want to make sure I get that right so our friends from the county don't get mad at me. The Polks at Preservation Park. It was a fantastic event where we had a number of supporters there of our community. And most of all, it was fantastic because that park, that project is a result of many hands from this community and from this city government that played a part in that. And so kudos to all of you who were involved. And it was just a really well done event, Mr. City Manager. Also, I'd like to point out that this Saturday at the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month, there will be a Veterans Day parade in the city of Columbia on West 7th Street, stretching down West 7th Street to the Mule House. I'm really excited that the Murray County Veteran Services Office has brought this event back, or has brought this event to the community. I believe it's been several decades since there's been actually a Veterans Day parade or any event celebrating veterans like this in quite some time. So I would encourage all of you to be there if you can. I think it'll be a great day for our community and certainly an opportunity to support our veterans. And then finally, there's also another event on Saturday. Before you go to the parade, you can go to the Rotary Pancake Breakfast, which is occurring on Saturday morning, Saturday from 7 until 2, 3.
The chairperson's here tonight.
6 to 6, okay. 6 to 4 on Saturday from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can go to the Rotary Pancake Breakfast. And, it's funny, the Rotary Pancake Breakfast for me is something I remember going to as a kid. And I love taking my kids to it because for me, it's like just sort of going down to the next generation. And so the Rotary Club does such a great job with that event. And I promise you it'll be good food and good fellowship. Any other member of council wish to be heard? Mr. City Manager.
Just remind council that our city offices are closed tomorrow for the Veterans Day holiday. And also we have our new Parks Recreation Maintenance Supervisor with us this evening, Colton Warfield. Colton? All right. Want to recognize him. Thank you, Mayor.
Colton, you got to sit through a very entertaining meeting this evening. All right. Hearing no further business, we'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. Been moved. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Jablonski, take the vote.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Green? Aye. Ms. Hardison? Aye. Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mrs. Wiles? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.